It'll be moderated.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Special welcome to all of you, and of course to Dr. Eger, who is here with us. I hope that I'm pronouncing it correctly, but I certainly know that all of us that are here are certainly very eager to hear from you, your story of strength and hope. You know, my wife and I are avid readers. The house is full of books. My wife is especially, my wife has probably read several hundred books on the Holocaust, but I have a very dear friend of mine and we exchange books together. And he always says to me, you know, of the many, many books that I've read, there are probably 3 or 4 that stand out. I go back to them again and again and again, because those are the books that have a lifetime message. And I was lucky enough to come by The Choice. It made a very, very powerful impression on me. I'm very involved in the recovery community with people who are seeking a spiritual path as a relief from their spiritual ailment. And this work, more than a book, but this work really provides an absolutely incredible perspective from an incredible human being who had the ability to really transform darkness into light. And so I don't want to take up much time, but I do want to let everybody know that after the doctor does share with us, there will be an opportunity. There is a chat box under the Zoom, and there will be an opportunity for you to send your questions directly to the doctor. And she will, we will, with God's help, be able to respond to some of those questions. So without further ado, as it says, this is a book that will provide hope and comfort to generations of readers. So without further ado, Dr. Edith Eger.
Thank you. Thank you for the beautiful, beautiful introduction. Actually, I am also acknowledging that the Torah, Hasidic philosophy, is telling us to look at everything from a different perspective. And this is what I'm going to be all about to you, how to turn tragedy into a victory, a kind of proud Jewish woman that I am, knowing that our ancestors did not have it as good as we do, and yet they never gave up, that there is hope in hopelessness. And I never say yes, but I say yes, and not why me, but what now? Because what we think, we create. And of course, it's very important to talk about self-love, which is self-care, which is not narcissistic. So my story and the story of us Jewish people is something to hopefully tell everyone that what you think, you will create. And if you get up in the morning, all you have to ask yourself, do I want to feel good or bad? And make life simple. I'm 93 years old, and I'm not talking about numbers at all. I'm talking about my attitude, the way I think, the way I get up in the morning, and look at actually life as one day. That morning sunshine is, especially in California, is beautiful. And then I hopefully can not only survive the hell in Auschwitz, I am able to guide others to be survivors and never a victim of anything or anyone. No one can get to you. No one can make you angry unless you allow them. So I'm sorry. I have a love affair with the Chabad, and so I'm letting you also know that I'm a third girl in my family, and my parents really wanted a son. And I became cross-eyed when I was 3 years old, and my sisters blindfolded me when they took me for a walk because they didn't want anyone to see how ugly I was, which I was told in Hungarian that I'm ugly and puny. I'm never going to find a husband. I had a beautiful mom. She's the one who introduced me to Gone with the Wind and took me to the opera, very cultured. And she looked at me and she said, I'm so glad you have brains because you have no looks. So I think it's very important for me to tell you that we receive messages in our childhood, but we can truly rewrite our script. And now that we are all put together at home, I hope especially couples will pay attention what they are really, really liking about each other, but also what they resent about each other. Because sometimes what we resent one time, we appreciate another time. My late husband was a very punctual person. And when we went to a party, he was already in a car and nudging me to get ready. And I didn't like that. But if I had to go to a lecture in New York and I had to be at the airport 5 o'clock in the morning, I knew I don't have to worry at all. He's going to be there probably an hour before. So I just want to tell you my story since you asked me for it. I was a very erudite teenager. I was just what my mom told me. I studied Latin, Greek, interpretation of dreams by Freud when I was 14. And then I also like to tell you that unfortunately, genocide is with us as we speak. And yet, never in a history of mankind such a systematic and scientific annihilation of people existed. So it's not comparable at all. I think Auschwitz was also an opportunity for us to decide how not to allow the enemy to ever murder our spirit. So that's what I bring you, that chutzpah, that defiance, that way how we can, Jewish people, empower each other with our differences. And hopefully my talk with you is going to give you an opportunity, what you want to hold on to and what are you willing to let go of. Like I'm willing to let go of not seeking other people's approval. And I also willing to give up pleasing everyone. It's a wonderful feeling to be the me, the genuine person, and not to try to have an ego rule me, that I have an image of me. I'm the same off stage and on stage. It's a wonderful time to get older and wiser, not old and senile. So Auschwitz was a terrible, terrible surprise. I am part of the final solution of Eichmann when they celebrated at the end of the day that they can put 30,000 Jews in the oven in one day. I am part of that final solution. It was a very, very difficult time as it is today because we didn't know what's going to happen next. When I stood in line 4 o'clock in the morning, I didn't know how the day is going to be. When we took a shower, I didn't know whether gas or water is going to come out. And this is the difference between stress and distress. Distress is when you don't know what's going to happen next. So if you have any questions, comments, today I can tell you that yesterday I spoke at the Shoah with the liberator who came May 4th, 1945, from the 71st Infantry. And I had a wonderful conversation, and he was telling me that Gunskirchen was a most terrible place he has ever seen, that cannibalism broke out. And I told him, yes, I saw people, unfortunately, are reaching for other people's flesh. And yet, when I looked at God and I asked to somehow find a way, and God told me to look down, and I had grass to eat. And I remember choosing one blade of grass over the other. So I can't is not in my vocabulary. When I go to a school, and I'm a former school teacher, I take the apostrophe and the T. I can. Why? Because I think I can. So what you think, you create. So what do you think of all that? And the Chabad and I have a love affair with each other, because I have a son who is disabled, and the Chabad is accepting everyone, regardless of color, whatever it is. And you are the ambassadors in my eyes, and I'm so happy to be with you, even though you are in Florida and I'm here on the West Coast in California.
So Dr. Eger, first I must say that so many of the Holocaust books that I read, sadly, many of the authors are no longer with us. And when we have an opportunity to actually speak to the author of such a book, who now you also wrote a second book, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming to meet you, even though it's over Zoom. It's absolutely overwhelming. And I feel a tremendous honor and a tremendous gratitude that Hashem has gifted us with your gifts, and that you have been able to give to everyone. I will start with one question. And I find this with many of the stories that I've read, is that it took many, many, many years, and you write this in your book as well, until you were actually able to talk about your story. And have you been able to wrap your head around why? Why did it take so long for you to be able to speak out?
Well, when I came to America, I was penniless. I didn't have $6 to get off the boat. And if people asked me who I was, I would say something like, who you want me to be. I became a very successful schizophrenic because I didn't want people to feel sorry for me. And I didn't have the verbal capacity. I didn't speak English. And unfortunately, I just went under, which was something I would never do today. My daughter calls it Edithism, and one of them is that the opposite of depression is expression, because what comes out of your body, that will never make you ill, what stays in there does. So I hope that you will today look at the kind of things that you may keep as a secret, and please share it, and you will feel much better knowing that you're not saying one thing and then doing the other, and thinking that this is wonderful, that God has given me an opportunity not only to survive, but guide others from victimization to empowerment.
That's amazing. So one of the women, and I'm encouraging everybody to please write your questions in the chat, and we will moderate the questions. And I'm going to read to you. Marlena writes, I admire you and all that you have done. I am a psychologist. I'm proud to say that I follow your methods. I share your books with my trauma clients. You have touched my life and helped me be a better psychologist. Thank you. So Marlena is on the group with us tonight. And I'm sure Marlena is not alone in sharing your outstanding methods and your encouragement and your insight. So, share with us a little bit in your methods, or maybe even the kinds of patients that you treat. Are they Holocaust survivors? Are they patients that go through physical trauma, mental trauma? And how is it that your particular story is able to help so many across the board?
People ask me what kind of therapy do I do, and the only thing I really came up with that I do choice therapy, because the more choices you have, the less you feel like a victim. Whatever happened to you, you didn't die. I was very suicidal after I was liberated. I was in a cast, my back was broken, and when I got up in the morning, I didn't say what I would say what for. I didn't have any meaning in my life, any purpose. And that's when I realized that my parents are not coming back. While I was in Auschwitz, I was hoping that somehow this is temporary and I'm going to survive and I'm going to meet my boyfriend. And my boyfriend and I were Zionists and we were going to go to Palestine. We had a meaning in our teenage years. We had a plan, and all that was now not coming. And I know that God spoke to me as I think God has spoken to me every time in Auschwitz, that this is temporary and I can survive it. And this is the time I think God has told me that if I die, I would be a coward, but if I live, I'm going to be for something rather than against. And that's why, thank God, you and I are the members of the healing arts profession, that people are not coming to me, they're sent to me. And I feel the same way that you do, that the most obnoxious patient is our best teacher.
You know, Doc,
You're smiling. Yes.
you're talking about the Chabad and the incredible work that they do, and of course,
I love them.
we are blessed with the teachings of Chabad Hasidism that are so profound and help us to craft a very, very unique perspective in recognizing that even things that seem to be evil, they have a little kernel of good, and we have to. It's our choice, as you talk about, the choice to discover that even the greatest trauma has a little kernel of good. But my question to you that I share is that sometimes we're able to understand things conceptually, but our heart doesn't follow immediately. So often you talk to a patient and you ask them if they understand, and they say, yes, I understand what you're saying, but somehow they don't feel it. They're still experiencing, the emotional outbursts, and the trauma keeps resurfacing. How do you connect?
Actualize.
How do you connect? How do you take the awarenesses from the mind and have them permeate every fiber of your being?
I think it's very important what you're saying, because I remember when people spoke to me when I came to America and they looked at me whether I understood, and I would say yes, even though I had no idea what they were talking about, because I already felt like a weirdo. And so I just wanted to be a Yankee Doodle dandy. I wanted to be like you. And so I won't do that today at all. And I didn't do justice for my children either. And not until I read Man's Search for Meaning. And I don't know if you ever read a book that you want to write 10 more pages to everyone. And I became so excited that now I can express and I can really be a whole person again, and not to run from my past, not to try to forget it or fight it, but to face it that it has made me who I am today, that I learned the difference between reacting or responding.
Right, right.
So when you react, you don't think.
It takes a lot of training.
I think it's very important to look at life the way I look at it when I am wearing, butterflies. I like the idea of the metamorphosis, and then you shed the chrysalis. And that's what the Jewish New Year is all about. When you ask, what am I holding on to, and what am I willing, that's a good word, willing, to be willing to let go. Let go of my perfectionism. I'm human. I'm fallible. I make mistakes, and that's okay. And I climb that mountain, and I slip, and I climb, and I slip, and I never stop climbing. I am still climbing. I'm still in a process of becoming, I am hopefully a very, very, very valuable child of God who was chosen to give what I lived.
Yes, yes, for sure. I'm going to read some of the questions. I'm not going to read the names of those who are asking them in case they would like to remain anonymous. So one woman asks, my mother was a survivor, and it's an honor to hear you speak. Curious, how was life for your children? Were their generation alive now to tell the story? Our lives were great, but different. So it's the second generation of survivors is asking that question.
I like to tell that survivors didn't have PTSD. We had cannibalism one day, and then we had to be normal. So what we did, we got married. And then you have this child, and then we parentize that child. That child is the one who learns how to speak English. That child is the one who teaches us how to go to the grocery store and look for Jiffy peanut butter, things that the survivors never ever heard of. Tuna fish. I remember my daughter got addicted to tuna fish. And so I think it's very important. Yesterday, I was remembering the time when a first generation patient told me that when he was going to school, his friend had Wonder Bread, and it had mayonnaise on it and a bologna. And he had a Kaiser roll with roast beef, and he came home and he wanted to have the white bread with the bologna. And so there is a loyalty, and it's not easy to grow up with survivors. We do the best we can. My little girl came home and told me that she wasn't invited to a party. And I cried and cried and cried and cried. And then I said, honey, we'll go to the kitchen and I'm going to give you a piece of Hungarian chocolate cake. And food was love. See, I really didn't have empathy. I didn't know compassionate listening. I didn't know anything. I knew food and food and food. So many times the question I ask, when did your childhood end? And many times survivor children grow up very fast, and they take care of their parents' narcissistic need. I am, of course, very fond of the drama of The Gifted Child by Alice Miller, and how children are acquiring a personality to fit the family dynamics. Like if you're a firstborn child, chances are if you marry another firstborn, you're going to have two bosses. Anybody can relate to that? I don't know, because they both want to be right. Middle children like to be peacemakers. They want everybody to get along. Anybody can relate to that at all? You make a good kissing girl, yes? Youngest is very good. The youngest children are known as charming manipulators. And I know I was the youngest child. And yes, I would go when my father was playing billiards and ask him for money because I knew he's going to be very generous. And yeah, I figured it out. I couldn't do this with my mother. I think we women are not strong. We are women of strength, that we look at life from inside out. And I think in a concentration camp, we had to recognize that there is nothing we could change with the external environment. And we didn't know what's going to happen next. And it was important to discover the inner strength, the attitudinal changes, the way we were able to take care of each other. Because if you were just for the me, you didn't make it. And when I was dancing for Dr. Mengele, and he gave me a piece of bread, instead of gobbling it up, I shared it with the girls. I think we were 6 or 7 or one. One had 1 foot, one had 1 foot. So cooperation was the name of the game. If we wanted to turn around, 1, 2, 3, all of us had to turn around. We had cooperation, not competition or domination. And all we had was each other then. And all we have is each other now.
Amazing.
We have a woman that is asking a question. When you choose to transform darkness into light, can you still express when you are in darkness, or do you just look at the sun and say you're in the light?
I kind of see myself that Auschwitz was like a dark tunnel. And I never gave up the hope that I'm going towards the light, that I can't go up or down or under it or over it, that I got to go through it. You got to through the valley of the shadow of death, that not to get stuck in it. And some people are chronically angry and not realizing there are many other emotions under that anger. And there is a lot of pain there. There is a lot of frustration, anxiety. And most of it is when we're angry, you have to look at fear. And we're not born with fear, we learned it. So freedom from the concentration camp that we put in our own minds, this is a good time to look at this as time out, just like in football. What am I doing now? How is it working for me? And see how you can look at your life and take inventory and see what do you want to hold on to and what are you willing to let go of. My definition of love is the ability to let go.
Right. So Dr. Eger, let me ask you a question. We all come into this world with, you know, certain things that are in our DNA, both genetically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, that are maybe predetermined to a certain extent based on our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents. And when faced with a trauma, even siblings may respond differently. And, you know, in the stories of the Holocaust, not everybody had the same vision like you had, which was to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So would you say that those with an innate nature of maybe a inability to see the light? So we talk today to present, you know, we're during a traumatic time in our era, nothing, God forbid, compared to what you went through. But there are those who feel traumatized during COVID, those who lost family members, those who are ill, those who have family members that are ill, those who are stuck at home and confined to their homes. And everybody is responding to it differently. Do you believe that there are those who are innately have different responses? Can those innate responses be changed? And if so, how long or what kind of process would that take?
Well, I like people actually to recognize 2 words, always, never. You know, I'm always going to, I never go. These are absolutistic words. Yes, there were many people that gave up very quickly, even though there was nothing going wrong physiologically. I think it's very, very important that the way you think, that's how you're going to feel. We have a cortex that sits on the limbic system. I think it's very important to think about your thinking and pay attention what you're paying attention to, what you're focusing on. That has to be getting you closer to your goal. I like to talk about short-term goals, long-term goals. I like to talk about an arrow that you choose to be on, to be the survivor. I have a handout on that, and I'm very happy to mail it to you. The difference between a victim. I refuse to be a victim. It's not my identity. I was victimized. It's not who I am. It's what was done to me. I don't minimize it or try to forget it or never overcome it. I came to terms with it, and I call it my cherished wound.
Wow.
There's a woman asking, how is it possible not to feel anger toward the Nazis that tortured you and destroyed so many people?
Absolutely. You got to go through the rage. Yeah, there is no letting go without rage. You got to go through that rage. Yes, I had tremendous problems with anger, and I asked my therapist to sit on me and not allow me to get up, because I was so afraid of my own anger. No, I would not really ask for anything other than to acknowledge the feeling and feel that feeling rather than talk about the feeling or medicate the feeling. You can't heal what you don't feel. The work is grief, not what happened, but what didn't happen. When my little girl was in a class, the IQ was 148. The teacher called her my little red caboose. I don't like labels. And Lindsay was a perfectionist. She would erase everything 100 times. And she was ready to leave that class. She didn't think she can cut it. And I told Lindsay the first time about Auschwitz. And I somehow succeeded, and she went back to school. And guess what? When it was time to go to colleges, and she wrote her autobiography, the title was When the Caboose Became an Engine. And I also can tell you that little Lindsay ended up going to high school, and she asked me to buy her a dress so she can go to a dance. I am a big sucker. I want you to know my father was a tailor and became a couturier and told me when I grow up, I'll be the best dressed girl in town. And I say, Papa, watch me wearing a scarf. And yes, and what happened that I bought Lindsay a beautiful dress. And when I came home, out of the blue, I was crying. See, the word understand is so academic. You have to feel that feeling. And all of a sudden, I didn't know, what am I crying about? And I realized that I'm not crying because I bought Lindsay a beautiful dress so she can go to her dance. I cried because I never went to a dance. And that is our work, to really revisit the places where we've been. And when I worked with two paraplegics, and one of them told me, why me, and was chronically angry. And the other one said to me, you know, I gotten a second chance in life. I am in a wheelchair, and I'm so happy because I can see the flowers closer and my children's closer. And then I decided that I was nothing but a fake.
Imposter.
An imposter wearing a white coat, Dr. Eger, Department of Psychiatry. But I couldn't take them further than I have gone myself, and I decided to go back to Auschwitz. I'm very grateful to those wonderful, yesterday was Veterans Day, that they gave me really the permission to go back to that lion's den and look at the lion in the face and reclaim my innocence and assign the shame and guilt to the perpetrator. And it's very important not also recognize that anger is not a primary emotion. And the most of it underneath is fear.
How would you recommend, this is a woman asking, how would you recommend to stop living in the past? I live in the present physically, but my mind and thoughts constantly go back to my past.
I embrace the feeling. When I go somewhere and that feeling comes up, I invite that feeling, I sit down, I feel that feeling, I legitimize that feeling, and then decide how long will I hold on to the feeling. I don't run from the past anymore. I don't fight it. I look at the concentration camp in my own mind, and I call it my cherished wound, because Auschwitz to me gave me the choice that I'm able to really look at every day and little by little. And I had a girl with me who told me that we're going to be liberated by Christmas, and Christmas came and went and she died. So I think it's one of the things that is very important, not to be rigid, but to be flexible.
Dr. Eger, do you mention your mother in the book a lot?
Yeah.
Do you believe that your strength of character and your strength of who you are, was that nurtured, or was that something that was in your nature?
Oh, I think my mom telling me in the cattle car, we don't know where we're going. We don't know where we are going to end up. But just remember, honey, no one can take away from you what you put in your mind. And that's exactly what happened. Everything was taken away from me. And I had my mind, and I had my sister, Magda, who is still alive. And she calls me and she tells me I'm gorgeous. And in Auschwitz, when we were completely shaven, she looked at me with her little hair in her palm and she asked me, how do I look? A Hungarian typical question. And I had a choice then, as you have a choice now, whether you pay attention to what you lost or find something, as the Rabbi said before, that is still there. So instead of telling Magda how she really looked, naked with the bald head, you can imagine and picture that way. And I said to Magda, you have such beautiful eyes, and I didn't see it when you had your hair all over the place. She remembers it today. Every time we talk, she says, remember when you told me I have beautiful eyes? So before you say anything, ask yourself, is it kind? And if it's not, don't say it. No one grows on criticism. Don't say you're a beautiful girl, but you are fat or pimply, because of course, you cancel everything, what you said before the but. So I like people to say yes, a lot of yeses. Yes, I am. Yes, I can. Yes, I will. I had a patient who went to a marathon and somehow halfway she stopped and she didn't think she was going to make it. And she ran into my office. Dr. Eger, I did it. I said to myself, yes, I am. Yes, I can. Yes, I will. So lots of yeses and not yes, but yes, and. So I think it's very important the way you look at everything as an opportunity. Auschwitz was an opportunity for discovering the inner strength, the Jewish beautiful blood of survivors.
Amazing.
So we have two final questions. One is a brief one from a young man who's joining us here tonight. And he's asking if the doctor ever met Anne Frank.
Many people call me the Anne Frank who didn't die. I have not met her in person, but I had the same upbringing. I studied Latin and Greek, and I very much compared, and that's why I'm so grateful to be alive and talk about that precious girl who said, I'm looking outside that people are killing each other, and yet I still believe that people are basically good. We're not born with hate. We're not born with fear. We're born with love and joy and passion and purpose. And so, yes, she is my precious, precious one. When I go to Amsterdam, I go and speak to the public about the Anne Frank, who always wanted to be famous, and she is. She is. Her spirit is with us.
A woman is asking the following question. First, a statement and a question. First, thank you so much. I am so honored to be on this Zoom call with you. Thanking also the Rabbi and Devorah for organizing the event. Two questions. Number one, is there anything that we can do for you? And number two, what is the one thing that you would like others to teach on your behalf about our people?
I like to be a good role model and do everything in our power to see to it that your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, I have 7 of those, will never experience what I did. I do everything in my power as long as I live to let people know what happens when good people do bad things. And I know that Rabbi, who wrote Bad Things Happen to Good People, Rabbi, it's not coming to me. I tell you what happens inside of Auschwitz and how we had to really care for one another. And you know, when I gave my bread to the girls instead of gobbling it up, when I was on a death march going from Mauthausen to Gunskirchen, I wanted to stop because I didn't think I have enough strength. And the girls that I shared the bread with formed a chair with their arms and they carried me so I wouldn't die. Isn't that amazing? That the worst can bring out the best in us. And I'm hoping that you look at me as a good role model, never ever give up, and knowing that God only made one of you. There'll never ever be another you. Many people can do what you can do, but not the way you can do it. You're authentic. One of a guy told me, God doesn't make junk, and I like that, the way young people think. God doesn't make junk. We are all beautiful, beautiful children of a loving God.
I'm going to ask a question. It may be a very sensitive question. You know, there's a concept of like a barometer of pain. And, you know, sometimes two people will have a conversation and maybe they won't know what another person has gone through in their life. And they'll maybe be like, oh, it's such a hard day. I stubbed my toe. I cut my finger. Somebody was rude to me on the line in Publix. And meanwhile, maybe that person just went through chemotherapy or went through a traumatic life experience. And there tends to be this kind of distance between the person who feels that their pain is so much greater than the pain another person has gone through. And someone like yourself who has been through something that you cannot even measure, and as a psychologist, you went from Auschwitz and you became a healer. You became a healer of the heart and a healer of the mind. Was there ever a time where you kind of wanted to say, ugh, why are they even worried about that? That's so stupid, or that's so, to use the word stupid, but maybe trivial, or like I weighed 80 pounds and was a skeleton and every day was life or death. Is there such a thing as that, having some sort of barometer for pain, that all pain is pain, and that there has to be some sort of compassion or empathy, even if it may not be as painful as something you have experienced?
I'm going to say two things. When a woman comes to me and tells me I was sexually abused, but how can I tell you when you were in Auschwitz? And my answer to her was, I knew the enemy, you didn't. You see, rape has nothing to do with sex. It has to do debasing a person into an object. So I think it's very, very important for us not to minimize anything. And in my book, I'm telling you that 1 hour, a mother came and we cried together. The daughter was dying of hemophilia. And the next hour, a woman came from the country club, crying the same way, because her yellow Cadillac was not the same color that she ordered. So I think it's very important to meet people where they are and then treat them as if they were what they really are capable of being. So we don't measure who suffers more, but I can tell you one thing, suffering makes you stronger.
Wow, 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 wow. So we have a little boy, I think he's maybe 11 years old. He's on with his mom tonight. Actually, I think 3 generations are on tonight, a grandma, a mom, and the grandson. And he just wanted us to tell you that you are a superhero. He is 11 and he wants you to know.
And I count on you. You are the future. You are an ambassador for peace and goodwill, and you're going to be the next president of the United States. Think big, 11-year-old. Thank you so much. You are my hero. I wish I could give you a grandma hug. So I have 3 children. I have 5 grandchildren, and I have 7 great grandsons. And that's the best revenge to Hitler.
Yes.
Amen. And you have probably hundreds, if not thousands, of followers and people that you have healed. And by virtue of that, have healed their children and their grandchildren and their great grandchildren.
I am not a healer. I guide people on a healing journey. So I assist them going through their healing journey from darkness to light, from prison to freedom. And the biggest prison is in our own mind, and the key is in your pocket. So this is where I am today at 93. I'm begging you, no matter how bad it is, just remember it's temporary and you can survive it. Life is beautiful, so every moment is very precious. Just give as much as you can so other people will also look at you as a good guide from victimization to empowerment, from darkness to light. And again, the biggest prison is in your own mind, and the key is right in your pocket. We don't care, we don't compare who suffered more, but suffering is feeling. And again, I'm telling you, don't medicate grief. It's not an illness. So if somebody tells me that their pinky hurt, and I don't tell them, oh, I just saw a man who doesn't have any arms, now they're going to feel guilty that I shouldn't feel the way you feel. Just keep a feeling company. And the way you do that, say sounds like, and then throw a feeling word. Sounds like you said about that. Sounds like you're angry about it. I told that to a general, a 5-star general, because the teenage daughter was smoking pot, God knows. And I told him, sounds like you're angry about it. And you know what he said? I'm mad as hell, you see. And I meet them where they are. And the word is permission. It's good to give permission to feel any feelings without the fear of being judged. And that's the atmosphere that we psychologists, my colleague here, provide, that people can feel any feelings without the fear of being judged. You don't cheer up a depressed person. You allow them to feel the feeling without any judgment. I love talking to you guys, and I wish you all the best in the world. I hope I can come and give you a hug and have the human touch. And I hope you can look in the mirror every morning and touch yourself and say, I love me. Again, self-love is self-care. It's not narcissistic. Narcissistic people don't like themselves.
Grace and Dankach, ihr sollt lang leben, Gesundheit und Freilichkeit. Live many, many years and continue, as you said, to help people discover their gift, to help people discover their truth and their happiness. We are so honored, and we thank you so, so much.
We follow the Torah and the Hasidic belief that there is something positive in everything.
Amen. 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 Dr. Eger, thank you for tonight. It was absolutely amazing. I do encourage everybody to buy her book, The Choice, and her new book that just came out, The Gift. You will soak in and absorb every single word of it. Oh, I see there are some people that bought it. We do have 2 books that Dr. Eger signed.
It's a self-help book.
So
that's what you asked for after
yes,
the choice.
thank you. And tonight we have written down everybody's name who is on the Zoom tonight, and we will do a raffle when we close off tonight. My husband and I will put everyone's name in a little basket. We'll do a raffle, and we will email you if you have won. It's a signed book. 2 signed books by Dr. Edith Eger. So your message is loud and clear. Your beauty is astounding. You are beautiful inside and out. And it is an honor, beyond an honor, to have you with us this evening. We are sending our virtual hugs from our hearts, from our minds, from our nishamot, from our souls, from our soul to your soul. We are all connected. And thank you so very much for being such a great inspiration to so many. Thank you, Dr. Eger.
Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shabbat shalom tomorrow. Shabbat.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. I'm sure you all treasured this as much as my husband and I treasured this. I'm quite emotional. My husband was correct when he said that I read. There's never a week that goes by that there isn't another Holocaust book on my desk that I'm reading, along with some other psychology books on my desk. And I don't find it depressing. I find it very often uplifting and miraculous. And Dr. Eger's books was definitely on par with Viktor Frankl's and many of the other tremendous books, Elie Wiesel, that I have read over the years. So I truly, truly recommend it. And if we can all just continue and perhaps, like she says, if we don't feel, we can't heal. So allow for those feelings, allow to express them, be kind to others, be good to others. There's always a silver lining. There's always the light at the end of the tunnel. And if somebody who has gone through the atrocities of Auschwitz can say there is always a light at the end of the tunnel, then we too can always say there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We have the key in our pocket. If we have listened, we heard her say, we have the key in our pocket. So I want to wish you all an inspirational from today. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. So from this moment onward, may we gather strength from her and courage and hope, and perhaps we'll have a new bounce in our step. Starting right now, a new bounce in our step of optimism, hope, love, caring, faith, trust, and just joy. Like she said, she wakes up every morning, looks outside, and the sun makes her happy. So may we all have that same blessing that she has, and let us not forget to reach out to someone else who may need that encouragement and that love and that virtual hug. So I hug you all tonight. I send you my best. Thank you for joining. We will continue to be in touch. We will continue to bring you great programming. Stay in tune for our next book club event. And I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom and love from me and the Rabbi. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Devorah.
You're welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Devorah. It was amazing.
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, she was.
I'm so
Thank
proud
you,
of you.
Devorah.
Thank you, Bob. I hear you, but I don't see you. I know you're there.
I'm in my pajamas.
Me too. And I wrote down all her quotes.
Her quotes were unbelievable. Thank you for writing them. I repeated them, but I didn't write them. Will you send them to me?
Yes, I will. I'm going to type them up.
Thank you. Thank you.
By the way, Devorah, her book is available as an audiobook.
Oh, I'm a paper.
I know, but I'm too busy. My hands are usually full these days.
That's why I have Shabbos. Shabbos is meant to sit on the couch, relax, sit back and read a book, turn off your electronics, turn off your phones.
It's not that. I'm not reading it on Shabbos. I'm listening when I've got the baby.
Well, that's because you became the surrogate babysitter, but the true
That's right.
the
My
bug.
hands aren't free, but my mind is.
Oh, my mother is on. Hello, mommy. Hi, Ma. I don't think she sees me.
Where is she,
I
Devorah?
see her. Mommy's there. She's in her techel. There she is with the
Under
glasses.
what name?
She's under her phone number. That's my mom. Hi, mommy.
Oh, hi, Ma. We could all cry together.
Yeah, I know, right? 3 generations.
Oh, God.
Ma, you're muted. Ma, you're muted. You have to unmute
Unmute yourself.
Mommy, unmute. You're muted, Ma. Mommy, she's not there anymore. I think.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes,
now
we
we
can
can
see
hear
you. We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Devorah, you are an inspiration.
Oh. I got it from you, Ma.
Oh, thank you. She just got on in the middle. I just got on in the middle. I didn't, but it
Oh.
was terrific what she said.
So good. So good. I'm gonna type up all
want
the.
a second book. I want a second book.
Yeah.
I'll order it for you on Amazon, Ma.
Oh, will you, Sarah? Okay,
Yeah, of
great.
course. I ordered. I got it already. I ordered it a few days ago. I'll have it shipped to your house.
Did you take a video of the whole
Yes.
thing?
I took a video of the whole thing and I'll share it.
Is it
I'll
still
share it.
recording now? Because I'm
Please
gonna
send it to us.
I will. It's still recording, but I
Please
can
send
crop
it to
it.
us.
I will, Mommy. I will send it. She was absolutely phenomenal from the beginning to the end. She is an iconic woman of such extreme wisdom and strength and just amazing. Just beyond amazing. Yeah. Yes, at 93 years old to still have that awareness, such a depth of awareness.
Right, amazing.
Yeah. If
And
only-
she still believes that people are good.
And she still believes people are good. If only we had that at 40 and 20 and 50 and 60, the world would be a better place.
And she said, good people do bad things. She didn't say they were bad people.
Right.
Yeah, that was actually shocking that she said that. I believe that good people do bad things.
Well, it's
Because,
true.
you know, are people born bad or evil
Exactly.
or I don't
Well,
know.
according to her, she says no one is born bad.
Right.
Well, we know that children are not born bad. There's no such thing as bad.
Mankind.
Right.
Wow. All right. It was so beautiful, everybody. Thank you for those I recognize. For those I don't recognize, it was such a beautiful evening. And thank you so much. And we will meet again. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Bye, Dora.
It's Shabbos. Oh, yes, it's Shabbos tomorrow. Say hi. That's Bubba.